Welcome to the Name and Occupation In-Depth podcast. We have a special guest on our show today. Daniel DeTavio is joining us from Brooklyn, New York. Daniel is a prominent fashion commercial photographer. He also models. He's a great friend, a real gem of a human being. He's all about positivity, which is really what our show is all about. Daniel, welcome to the show. We're really
Thank
so
you.
happy to finally have you here.
Thank you.
We really just wanted you to tell us your story. Where did you grow up?
I'm from Northern California, the
Oh,
foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains. The area is made known because of the California gold rush occurred where I'm from. So I grew up there, and in college years, I was in Southern California, primarily San Diego. And then I moved back to San Francisco for theater school, and that's when I started taking pictures as a hobby. So I
wow.
was given my grandfather's old 35 millimeter, and I started photographing my friends and classmates from theater school, black and white film during our lunch break. And it was from that point that I started getting I don't know, an excitement
The itch.
for the itch to do more and learn more. And it just was exciting. So that's how it started for me. The photography was when I was going to theatrical school.
So photography wasn't the plan. Was it acting? Was that
You
your
know, I
plan?
don't know. I don't know. When you're in your early 20s, at least for a lot of, I think, young men, we think we know what we want to do, and then it changes. But I didn't pick up a camera and start taking pictures till I was 28, and I'm also self-taught. And I think there were some pros and cons to that, but it was a very uh, slow progression into realizing that it was something that I could make a living at, and that I wanted to pursue. It was probably the first thing I felt the most clear that I wanted to do at that time in my life.
Mm.
So it was exciting. So what happened
Fantastic.
was I moved back down to Southern California after going to American Conservatory Theater, and I made a friend down there who is a job life coach, who's an incredible human being, and he basically pinned me down and said, "You're a mile wide and an inch deep," because I had so many interests at the time. And he said, "You need, if you would just choose one vocation or one passion and just focus on it for a year and see what happens, I'll coach you. I'll give you guidance and coaching." So I did that, and within a year of pursuing only photography, I had already planned to move to Milan and then New York City. So it really took off pretty fast for me. So
So
Okay.
yeah,
Milan, so Italy, Milan. So is that what
hmm
Dettavio is? Are you part Italian or?
yes. My dad's dad is from southern Italy near Rome, and he was actually born in the States, but grew up in Italy, and then came back to the United States when he was, I think, 18 before the cutoff time. So he didn't speak any English, came here not knowing anybody, and rest is history. So yeah. But it was interesting
Cool.
moving to Milan because, a lot of, I don't know, at least for me, a lot of American Italians are really encouraged to celebrate their Italian heritage. So I was very excited to see what it'd be like to go to the old country. And I loved it. It's beautiful, but I realized pretty soon that I wasn't Italian per se. I was, American Italian. So my sensibilities were a little different, but there's a lot to appreciate, as you know, about Italian culture and quality of living. So I did take a lot of good life lessons from that.
So how long were you in Milan?
Not very long, just 6 months because of my visa. And I had opportunities waiting in New York. So the intention for me was to kind of thicken my skin in the fashion world, build out my portfolio in Milan, and come to New York feeling a little bit more prepared in this way. So that's what I did.
Ah.
Wow, what a story.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
impressive.
trying to give the short version.
Well,
No, that's great.
that is not an easy thing
Uh,
to do. It's
No,
like
it's not. It's yeah, I'd never been to either Italy or New York, and I traveled alone and just a couple of bags. And
good
even when I
learning
moved to,
experience.
yeah, you learn a lot about yourself. This is pre-social media, so I just had my journal pretty much. But I even when I moved to New York City, I was still, I didn't want to do it unless I knew I could actually do it well. So when I even moved to New York City, I'd met a very well-known art director and assistant to Annie Leibovitz, who's an iconic fashion photographer, and showed him my body of work, and it was kind of all over the place at the time, style-wise. Because when you're a young artist, you're influenced by other artists naturally, so you want to emulate them, but that doesn't necessarily always mean it's authentic. So I showed my body of work, and it was kind of all over the place. And he says, and I plainly asked, like, am I wasting my time here, or do you see something that's, do you see something in my work that is special or valuable or has potential? And he said to me, yes, I definitely see some talent here. You just need to find your style. And as you know, any successful artist, you usually can recognize their work, at a glance. So it's really important lesson I learned is to kind of figure out what you're good at and can do better than most everyone else. And then once you figure that out, then you can do the commercial work as well,
So you do modeling too, so that must have helped with your photography, right?
A little bit, yeah. It did in the beginning. I'm trying to do less of it now just because so much, it's like, it's easier when you're younger, of course.
Yeah.
But it did help. Being a model absolutely opened doors, because even when I moved to New York City, I was referred to Ford as a model. And then, once I got in there, it said, oh, by the way, I'm really here to be a photographer, because you get access to strong models, which is really important. So, when I moved to New York City, I was first doing retail during the day and working in a restaurant at night. So it was like 7 a.m. till 1 a.m. days for about 3 to 6 months, I remember. And then I finally went into Ford as a model and explained I'm there to be a photographer, and they gave me some guys to shoot, and they were very pleased with the work, and they said, we want you to photograph the entire board.
So I was looking at some of
This is that cool guy. He's a professional soccer player, as a matter of fact.
I see. Right on.
I think his name might be on there somewhere.
So this looks like
Yeah,
a cover for something?
It was an editorial for a magazine. Yeah.
Nice.
I
Beautiful.
remember once we had a conversation. You did a monograph of rugby and stuff like that. So you had an exclusive photo shoot of that. Where was that taken, and how was the experience and the travel of that?
That was like 2007. That's the interesting thing about that work is I didn't travel. It was all their home matches in Queens. Beautiful location.
Cool. Yeah.
And what's interesting about this work is I shot it with a black and white film, medium format camera. So it wasn't a high powered camera at all. So I had to really sort of anticipate some of the shots, and it gave it a very timeless feel, I felt.
Love that.
So you do that often for the rugby? Are you regularly?
It was just that particular season for New York Athletic Club's program.
Right on.
It was just to do it.
Yeah.
And a fine art bookmaker got a hold of the contacts and was like, I want to make this into a book. I was like, okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I got very lucky.
Yes, I remember that.
It was sold in the Ralph Lauren stores and the Ralph Lauren rugby stores when those existed.
Was this for like a commercial, or?
This was for these were stills that were shot for, I was kind of piggybacking off a project that a very well-known, actually he was a principal dancer for New York City Ballet, and then he was Tony nominated actor for American in Paris, Robbie Fairchild. So he had done
gorgeous shot.
Yeah, that is amazing.
He had done a project called the 4 or 5 Stages of Grieving. So I was following him through all the different stages and different locations.
So
Daniel, just a quick question with that back shot there, the guy jumping. How many takes did you go through?
Oh, not very many. Like maybe
Really,
3 or 4.
Because
Yeah,
that's an amazing shot.
it helps to lay on the ground.
Okay.
Perspective,
Yeah.
right? So you know the perspective.
I'm on the middle of the street laying on the concrete there. I tend to like
Cool.
to shoot up.
So you've
Oh,
shot
yeah.
covers for magazines, for actors, and different things. What was the, how can I say, most memorable actor or experience that you had? Are they like really like down key like anybody else, or do you feel that they're
Yeah,
a little bit different or higher up?
I think any like really well established artists usually are down to earth in my experience. The last couple of guys I shot was Willem Dafoe and
I saw
more
that.
recently Jeff Daniels.
What?
But
How cool
shot
was that
Defoe?
guy? I bet he was like super
Mhm.
chill, right? Defoe.
Who's that?
Defoe
Oh,
must
yeah.
have been. Wow.
Yeah, he's a neat guy.
What an
Yeah,
honor,
very youthful spirit and funnier than you would expect, you know, because he has such an intense character looking face, but he's
Right.
actually very light and very funny.
Isn't that cool?
Very-
That's
very witty.
I believe it.
So is that among your highlights, having met Willem Dafoe?
Yeah, I've met him. I just shot Bella Thorne.
I love this shot, by the way, Daniel.
Me too.
Perfect. It's
Yeah.
really perfect.
Did you have to take a lot of shots with him? I bet you didn't.
You know, you don't want to overshoot because that certainly can make it seem like
Yeah.
that's not a good look. You got to know when you got the shot. You have to be mindful of how many looks there is to accomplish and how much time you have with that celebrity.
Right.
For example, when I photographed Jeff Daniels, it was on a Sunday morning. Everyone was just super tired. Like everybody was just like dragging. And you could just tell everyone wanted to get it done as soon as we could. And I shot so fast and so little that I was actually worried that I, didn't do enough or I captured enough options. But in the end, it was fine. But typically, more often than not, I usually know when I have the shot.
Are you a big planner?
I do like to know where I'm shooting. If it's somebody important, it does help
Yeah.
to scout, get an idea of what the best flow and use of time, best workflow would be. Most of the time with photo shoots, people have to remember that, when you're actually there taking the picture, that happens fairly quick. It's like painting. All the time is in the preparation, understanding your light, how to use the space in a way that tells some kind of story. Those are things that are important to think about ahead of time. But also, I always give myself permission to change my mind as well, because you want people to be who they are. So I just try to encourage people to think about what makes sense in the space that they're in, especially if it's a natural environment where you have a furniture or an environment. And I'll even just have a chit chat. I'll just say, hey, let's pretend that you're waiting for your very first love and you haven't seen her in 20 years and you're not sure how you're going to feel, or so that gets people out of their heads. I'll give them like a scenario, or I'll tell them to think about their dog or tell me what they did last week. And it can be really light and subtle.
What's your favorite lens?
It depends what I'm shooting, honestly. It depends on, if I'm shooting. If I need to shoot a lot really quickly, I'll use a longer lens. I can zoom in, I can zoom out, I can come in tight, I can blur out the background. So I can accomplish more faster, but maybe the pictures, and that's fine if you're not using the photos, say for print work, say it's for social media. So the detail can be a little, it can be there, but not as good as it could be. But for social media, it's fine. So it really depends on the circumstance. But if I'm photographing, like when I shot Michael Shannon, he's another amazing actor I shot. I was like, he has such an interesting face. I wanted a nice prime lens. So, I remember like the day before I spent a few grand, it's like, I need this lens. Cause
Which lens was it?
It was just an 85, like 122. It's great for portraits. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
good portrait lens. Funny thing there, it was, also what you'll deal with a lot with celebrities is a lot of people, a lot of chaotic energy. Everyone's trying to do their best work. So there's anxiety that can happen in those environments. And I remember with Michael, which celebrity I'm talking about? Michael Shannon. I was thinking all of a sudden Michael Strahan, because I shot him too, two Michaels. But cool. Michael Shannon, he's a very gentle spirit, very yeah, whatever you need me to do, Doesn't even necessarily like his photo, I think, taken too much. And I grabbed him and I just said, look, just come over here real quick. And I had like this little black paper backdrop. And I said, let's just take a few shots in your denim shirt that you're wearing, because this is you. And I could recognize that. And I think he could appreciate that I, in a way, pulled him away from the energy. And that ended up being the shot that they ended up putting on the cover. It's one thing to know how to use a camera and it's the thing that is hard to teach is to be instinctively aware of what people are saying without words and giving them the space to be who they are and make them feel safe.
Like, what role do you play in asking your the people what clothes to wear? And like, what role, how does that work out? Like, if you could explain that, right?
Again, that depends. So if I'm photographing a law firm, depending on the type of law they're doing, I will suggest a tie or not a tie. Earth tones, colors that complement people's eye colors. Typically, you want to stay away from light tones like white shirts. In photographs, when it comes to really capturing somebody's eyes, you don't want too much fighting the eyes in a sense of color, patterns, or even tonality. So usually darker tone colors, earth tone colors are more complementary to brings more attention to the eyes. When you look at an image, I've always been taught that your eye is naturally drawn to the lighter parts of the image. That's why I feel like, really dark tone work I love, because it draws you to the subject's eyes so much more. If you have a lot of light tonality happening around the subject, that's okay. Like in this picture, for example, we're selling a shirt, you know what I mean? So we don't want the guy to overpower the clothes. We want to see a shirt, but it's got to look like this guy's actually on the beach, and he is. So there is kind of an art form to understanding tonality and where you want the viewer's eye to go and why.
Hey. So is that something that you learn, or a combination of experience and?
Yeah, you learn from experience, definitely.
Yeah.
There'll be brands, they need what's called a hero image, which is a landscape shot, and they'll be like, hey, we need shots that'll fit the width of the screen for our website. So I have to consider creating what's called some negative space, so that way you can write some copy next to the image. So graphic designers really appreciate that.
Right.
I noticed you're really into the black and white, eh?
Definitely, yeah.
When you're on your way to a photo shoot, like, are you listening to music? You're pumping yourself? What kind of style you're looking for? Pop rock, classical, or you just so in the zone that you don't want to get yourself into distracted?
I don't even really think about that. That's a good question.
Or when you're doing editing too, like, right? Because like when you're doing editing, you don't want to be falling asleep, because, I used to be more productive at night doing editing when you're just doing photography. What kind of music and style?
If I have to do a lot of editing in a short time, I'll definitely use like faster music. But you know what I actually like editing to is a lot of Martin Scorsese films
Oh,
because
okay.
because a lot of his work a lot of his films are narrated. You know,
I love it.
Casino, for example. You know what's happening because the characters are talking. So even though I'm not watching the film, I'm listening to it. So I do like watching certain films that might be familiar, but just the talking kind of.
Right. So I got a quick question. When you're taking a picture of someone, like that Cologne picture or whatever, the black and white earlier of that guy, do you ever ask people to put some sort of gloss or?
There was an editorial I shot of a very famous model with some Polaroids. If you look up under sports, under boxing, there was a makeup artist I was working with, and I did have her add what's called glycerin, which is made to look like sweat. So that was a rare occasion. If you look at sports boxing, but it looked real, you know, but it was kind of set up. So you can arrow. So these are all Polaroids, black and white Polaroids. There might be one you can really see it in here, like on the side of his face. There was like sweat. Actually, there's someone just expressed interest to buy this whole series from me.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's a big country music star now, but he was the Armani guy for years.
So it looks like you traveled a lot of different places. Like you were in California, you went to Milan, you're in New York, you're in Brooklyn. Like, what kind of food that impresses you, or that it's a most go-to? Because I know a lot when I visited you, Daniel, like 4 years ago, there was a couple of stores, like a couple of restaurants around your place, which is like, for me, it was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Yeah. Like, what kind of like food do you eat? Do you go for a lot of meat or more of the vegan area, or
I eat everything. I eat everything.
Okay.
Cooking right now. I got a roast in the oven. Chicken roast, simmering away. I have it at 325. You think 325 is good for a small chicken? It's in one of those Keurig pots.
Nice.
So we like to cook. We do like to cook here, but around here, surprisingly, there's a few restaurants in walking distance, but we try to grocery shop a lot. Food has become so expensive because of the pandemic. Since the pandemic, like in my neighborhood, a dozen eggs is almost $8. It's stupid.
Oh,
so
right.
we try to So we try to go to like discount stores like Trader Joe's and things like that. Small bag of granola is like $12.
Yeah.
Things have gotten really, really expensive here, and it's just painful. So we're trying to cook as much as we can. Not always possible.
Has the hot dog stand gone up in prices? Because last time we were there, like freaking $7 or something like that, they were charging for the hot dog. Like, what are they gone now?
Usually, I don't know. Usually, New Yorkers don't eat those.
It's for the tourists.
Stay away from the hot dogs, everyone.
Yeah, you don't know where that water's been sitting there. I'm sure they're safe enough. But
Daniel, you mentioned that you had just come back from somewhere. Where did you go?
Oh, we were on a little vacation in Key West, Florida.
Oh, wow. Oh.
The best part of Florida. I'd never been. I do shoot in Miami quite often for Perry Ellis Company. There's a few brands that I shoot. They own like
Perry Ellis.
Perry Ellis, but not their main Perry Ellis brand. Some of their off brands.
Key West looks very different, though, right, than most of Florida.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Is there anything new projects that you're adventuring and trying, or new?
So Inca and me, my wife, she and I, during the pandemic, created an off-Broadway dinner theater, and that was successful, and we had a lot of fun doing that. And then from that has birthed other opportunities. So now we're working a lot on doing productions and private parties. So that's been taking up a lot of our time in a good way. So I'm kind of help co-producing with her. I'm doing the photography. I'm building things for props and such. And then she's the creative director, hiring the talent, coming up with the ideas. It's a private party for a members only club, and the events happen in Los Angeles and New York, and soon Miami. So it's been they vet everybody. It's a very exclusive group of people. So you see and meet very affluent people.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Celebrities, CEOs. But what's cool about the whole setup is it's a masquerade theme. So if someone wanted to be autonomous or not being recognized, you could do that without there being any pressure. There's no phones allowed, such. So
That's a
I
good rule.
it's black
see.
tie.
Very cool.
It's black tie, so all the men are in
Okay.
tuxedos.
I see.
Mhm.
You need a tux.
Is it like, is there a location or does it change
Yeah.
places?
Right.
Is it like
Yeah,
an
it
underground society?
I wouldn't say it's underground. As a matter of fact, before we were involved with the owner who owns it now, it's Orient, the guy who started it, had a show on Showtime about this club. Unfortunately, it did no justice to them because it was more about his personal drama versus, I think, the culture of
Right.
what the Sanctum is.
Mhm.
But it's, you know, to be a member is like extremely expensive, and these parties to attend is another few grand. That's just to come, you know. If they even
Okay.
allow you, even if they even allow you, they'll say no to most people.
I
They're
see. So
very,
it's
very
very
particular.
exclusive.
Mhm.
Okay.
They want to know who you are, why you want to come, you know, what you're looking to hope to experience.
now-
There's security. There's
Now we could drop your name. Daniel's name.
Yeah.
VIPs
That's
and,
it, brother.
You
Yeah,
know,
it
the finest
it helps.
scotch.
It helps because they'll want to know, like, who are these people? You know what I mean?
Right?
Right.
So-
Okay.
One.
Uh-huh.
That was
So that's all my work, and those are the parties we're doing productions for. So Inka, my wife's in charge of coming up with all the ideas, and then we try to figure out what talent would be suitable. Sometimes we scout talent. We're working with a lot of other contemporary artists, musicians, opera singers, classical musicians. You know, like I think I heard Cosmo is going to do a story about us soon, and other places. And I can send you guys some write-ups. There was just something in the Daily Mail about us a few weeks ago.
I think
Cool.
We're
it's
getting good press.
super interesting. I think it's super interesting, and
It
I think
is.
it's a lot of people
Wow.
are into that kind of stuff more than
Well, it makes
people
it
think.
Oh, yeah,
More
they
than
are.
people think.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah. And I see it all. I'm there. So as the night progresses, I'll encourage people or just kind of be there as someone to just talk to, or, you know, that sort of thing.
Right.
So
Yeah, because it can be a very powerful experience, right? Like for people.
yes,
You know.
yes. But what's
think
important to us is to do it in a very. We're really big on consent, so that's a big part of the discussion about manners and consent. There's
Yeah.
Of
we
course.
always have a security team, and we never have really any issues, but it's an environment that is made to make people feel safe and free to explore.
Right.
Your wife is beautiful, by the way. I saw.
Thank you. She's a world burlesque champion, first European champion from Finland, and
Wow.
that's how we met. She was performing burlesque, and I was taking pictures. To be working with them, because it's kind of accumulation of a lot of things I've learned as far as how to, you know, make people feel and look beautiful. And I'm also calling back on a lot of, you know, people I've worked with in the past who surprisingly are into erotic arts that we're collaborating with, you know. So it's been really neat. Makeup artists, you know, I brought on board to help with the team. It's a huge production.
Wow.
I love it. I love about the collaboration, the art.
Yeah,
You're so
it's
artistic.
big on the art.
Positivity too, right? It's like all happy vibes, happy, you know,
Oh, yeah.
experience.
It is
You know?
beautiful. I would say you're surrounded by some of the most beautiful people. It's kind of shocking, actually. Just beautiful people walking around pretty much naked. It's like a dream. But at the same time, what makes this place really cool is just the quality of the character of people that are there. You meet just really neat people, make cool friends.
I'm trying to get to you. You know I like the way you move. Come a little closer. I'm trying to get to you. Oh, show me how your body moves. Like with your heart, yeah, what I do and then keep it out, just the way you move, babe. Still and then tell me out loud. So keep it out.
Inca's known for temperature play, working with candle wax. And as part of one of her performance arts, so that's real candle wax that she would pour on herself. I think I need to get this body of work out because I think it's
that one. Can we see that
Daniel,
one?
you need to do an exhibit.
Right.
Yeah, really.
You need to print these and you need to make an exhibit. This is what, look at this.
Wow.
So
Interesting.
where can people see this, Daniel? What's your Instagram and handle?
This is DDNI_photography is the handle for this body of work. There's a local coffee shop that is doing a projection onto a big, huge canvas. We found this work looked best, really big. That print there, we just made wallpaper out of.
See, I was wondering what that was. What's the process? Like, she doesn't pour the wax on her face.
Yes, she does.
Yeah.
She does.
Or you do it.
She does it. Which is tricky because you have to do it with your eyes closed, you know.
Huh.
So I'll kind of work with her. So we'd start without the wax, and then we would slowly add the wax. Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting. So
everybody check out
there's a plan. There's a plan. Do you help her out when she's doing this? Like, do you know that you have to put a flower on top? Like, how does it work?
First, it started that she wanted to shoot something with wax, and when I said it, I think it would be a great juxtaposition to have like a delicate flower being covered in wax in your mouth. You know, that juxtaposition could be interesting. So every day or two, we'd go for a walk in the neighborhood and find a flower, and he would shoot it.
So do you have a studio at home, or?
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect.
By the way, Daniel lives in this beautiful area in Brooklyn.
Once you live here, it's kind of hard to live anywhere else, or you always want to feel a connection to the city. New York is special in that
it is.
It's a very honest depiction of all the different levels of culture. 1 second you're trying to walk over, you know, a homeless person or dog poop, or you're hearing different languages, and the next second you're going up to a high rise and you're meeting celebrities and affluent people, and it's just such an honest depiction of the real world. And I kind of dig that because I think it keeps you humble.
The energy, you could just feel the energy there. Like there's something magical about that city.
It's intense. Yeah, it can be a lot. Yeah. You definitely, as an artist, I think, have to learn how to manage all the things you see and feel, because it's typically artists see and feel more than most. So you have to be careful that it doesn't, I don't know, make you unsensitive.
There's also an honesty in people in New York, right? Like, people are like, when they have conversations, they're not fake. They're like, they really, like, compared to other places, maybe in North America, people are pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think there's an emphasis here in the Northeast, especially in New York City, where people give more respect to life experience over possession. I think people care more about what you're doing or your experience versus what you have, what kind of car you drive, or how much money you have. So there's definitely that sort of, like, I don't know, real idea of what good character is and what is impressive about somebody.
So do you think that energy comes from the fact that everybody knows the history of New York, that it's all grassroots, with the immigrants, with Riker Island or Ellis Island or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, everybody knows that it's grassroots and rich and immigrants and hard work and, just bustling and trying to get the American dream, right?
I think that's a good point you touched upon. Hard work. This is one of those places where if you do have some talent and you do work hard, you will create opportunities for yourself. You will work your way up the ladder. I think the city and culture definitely lends itself to that. And that is special, I think. And then there's just a romantic idea of New York City. And I think because of all the immigrants who come through here, including my own family, I found out 1800s and 1900s. It's nostalgia, it's like this idea that you can create and become anyone you want. And I think that idea is still very prevalent here. I know people here who've come for that reason, all kinds of people. So, yeah. cool.
I love
Very
that.
cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So you are in Brooklyn now, right? So
Mhm.
how is the energy there compared to Manhattan or anything? Is it still there? Is it a little bit more subtle? It's like a peaceful area more so you can regroup and concentrate to yourself?
That's a good question.
I mean,
Brooklyn, Brooklyn's really known for all the artists being out here. I think the artists used to be in, back in the 80s in Soho or the East Village, Gramercy Park area. And then it got more expensive. And then the artists in the 90s moved to East Williamsburg area, which is just over the water. And now that area got gentrified. So now a lot of the artists who, are still emerging can't afford to live there. So they've been pushed out even further into the direction I'm in, which is considered East Williamsburg, Bushwick. So the area I'm in is a very industrial one. There's a lot of warehouse and cement factories and just warehouses in general.
Perfect for a
Mixed
photographer.
in with, yeah, it is good for that. It is good because you got all that texture and you have all those like character, a lot of environments with a lot of character, which can lend itself to a photographer. Also, it helps, in my opinion, not being bombarded by so many people on the street. So it is great to be a photographer here. And for me, as I've gotten older, I've come to realize the importance of not dealing with so much noise. The noise is less, which I prefer. So I'm in the city quite often, and I can leave there and be in a quieter space, which, as you get older, I think is important to kind of have that stillness. It's hard to find your own nest in New York City when you're an artist. It takes time.
Maybe you had like some advice for inspiring photographers out there?
Yeah, definitely. Let me try to put this phone back up. My advice would be pay attention to things that draw your eye. Look for patterns in your work. If there's a scenario or composition or a type of light, those are good instinctive things to pay attention to, because when you're first pursuing your art, you're not being told what you're doing is wrong. You're just purely working on an instinctive level, which is what makes any individual artist stand out, because it's an extension of how they like to see the world. So I would say in the beginning of your pursuit, and I think this is true not just for photographers, but any artist, look for common things that might inspire you. It could be color, it could be composition, it could be a texture, it could be a light, it could be a subject. And then as you develop your technical abilities, you may stray a little bit and give yourself permission to try other things. But I find that even for myself, I kind of approach things in a way I sort of did in the very beginning of my photography career, because it just felt to me like what I wanted to see. So I would say anyone who's new at taking pictures, allow yourself to never fear like what you're doing is a mistake. Just try to find patterns in the things that are inspiring you, because that's going to be telling you what you might naturally be good at, and to develop those things. Also, more importantly, this whole balance of art and commerce, it's a business. So first thing you want to do is develop a database as well. So anyone who's pursuing a career in any arts, let your friends and family, colleagues know that is what you're doing, and ask for referrals. That's how I had started. I basically wrote a letter to everyone I knew and said, hey, this is what I'm doing. If you know anyone who can benefit from my services, please refer me, because referral is usually the best way to get opportunity over advertising any day of the week. So that would be something I would suggest for people.
Great advice.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah, we
Super.
could talk to you for two more hours, I think. But here's just a quickie. City or countryside?
City, for me. Even though I'm from the country, but city is more interesting to me.
Same here. Club or concert?
That's a good one. Club, or I guess it depends who's playing the concert.
Good one.
I'd have to compare the two. I would say concert if it was an artist I really admired. But there are some small clubs I've experienced in New York City that are pretty amazing, where it's like you see things that blow your mind. So it depends.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know more, but later.
Blues. Yeah, there's an after show for that kind of stuff. Blues or jazz?
Blues.
Football or rugby?
Rugby, I don't know. Football's fun to watch too, but I don't know. Rugby's, I don't know. There's something about rugby. I think it's the manners and the sportsmanship
The
that appeal
respect.
to me. Yes,
Yeah.
respect towards officials and towards the opponent. That to me is the beauty of sports. Whereas I think football has become so commercialized and so many players are paid so much. There's just no, I don't know. So rugby.
Good answer. California food or New York City food?
Ooh. I gotta say I like California food probably more, but pizza's amazing here. Pizza's amazing in New York. So for the most part, and I like that it's so accessible here.
Right. Do you rather do photography or model?
Oh, photography. And as a matter of fact, I'm kind of slowing down on that front, on the modeling front, just because I just don't have time. You know, nowadays especially, you have to submit yourself to a lot of castings online, and I'm just, you know,
You're done
not
with
as
it.
motivated. Yeah, maybe till I get like, I think I told my agent the other week, I was like, let's wait till I get like I go more gray and do like the gray hair look. Those guys make money.
That's funny.
So,
Really,
yeah.
eh?
Oh yeah.
Jeez, I should get into that. I
Yeah,
got a lot of
if you
gray.
If you have nice gray hair, yeah, that helps.
Do you rather do portraits or events?
Portraits for sure.
In studio or on location?
Location.
Potato,
Location.
location. Yeah. Potato.
Potato.
First thing that comes to mind. Canada.
My boys. My beautiful sons.
United States.
United States, first thing that comes to mind?
Yeah.
Opportunity.
Europe.
Good taste.
California.
I would say, when I think California, I think about a free spirit.
New York City.
I think of hustle.
Music.
Music, I think, I could say therapy.
Favorite lens.
That's a good one. Be a 50 or an 85 prime, for sure.
Always the 50. I love the 50 too.
I was thinking too.
That's what I use with Willem Dafoe.
Oh yeah.
It's my favorite, the 50 yeah, 50. Any 50 is good prime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. It is. I need to buy one.
Yeah. Your superpower.
Probably my empathy.
Your paradise.
Being with my family, my kids, and with Inca.
Most important life lesson.
Accountability and authenticity, honesty. Yeah.
That's it, man. Thank you so much, Daniel. It was
Yeah.
you're a fascinating cat.
Oh,
Yeah, a lot of fun, very
Daniel.
informative.
Yeah, man, and it's like inspiring. Like I
Big
said, I'm a
time.
cameraman myself, so not photography, but like so I can appreciate what you're doing. You know, like
thank
yeah,
you.
really
Yeah,
nice stuff.
there's so
Very
many
talented.
times where I'm like, am I fooling people to pay
No,
me to
no,
do
no.
this? Because I love it. You know?
Yeah.
I'm really lucky. I was always under the impression if I found what I love to do, it wouldn't feel like work.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Daniel. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing us your story. It really, really means a lot to us. There's so many insights.
Really.
You're
Yeah.
so wise. I just
Oh.
really love you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you,
for
Daniel.
making me feel cool.
You
You
are
are,
cool.
man.
Thank
Cool. You're
you.
the
Super cool.
coolest.
If there's any other type of artist that you're looking to add to your repertoire, let me know and I can forward you along.
Well, your
Well,
wife
let's get
seems
Willem
like
Dafoe on. Let's get Willem
Oh,
Dafoe.
yeah.
On.